This is Signal and Noise, bringing clarity to data, tech, and AI.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Signal and Noise. I'm Brett House, joined by my co-host Rio Longacre. And today we're talking about one of the most interesting founders working in ad tech right now, someone who has seen the industry from both sides. Adam Heimlich spent years inside the agency world, including leadership roles at Horizon Media, working directly in the trenches of Programmatic. He saw firsthand how the system actually works, the incentives, the inefficiencies, and the limits of the tools media teams for the media teams that were using them every day. Eventually, he decided to do something a little more dangerous, something that I've done recently, and it is terrifying at times, is build a new company, launch a new company, go out on his own. So he's the co-founder of and CEO of Chalice AI, a company, for those that don't know, trying to rethink how programmatic buying actually works from agentic AI to new RTB standards. Through a containerized architecture. And we will talk about what that means, that lets advertisers run.
Yes, I'm sure there are many questions about that.
Totally. Yep. Run their own decisioning logic directly in the bidding process. And again, if that's flying over people's heads or in one ear and out the other, we'll talk about it in detail. So my perspective on you, Adam, is you've got a very different way of thinking about programmatic infrastructure. You're certainly a visionary in the industry. And you've done your fair share of shit posting, and adding in mixing in sharp insight and LinkedIn and X and others. Welcome to the podcast. It's a thrill to have you, and would love for you to give a little introduction. I don't know if I did you any justice there, or if that was completely biased.
That was fair. I just got to plug my live Friday show with Gareth Glazer, Ad Tech Ad Talk. Since we're all podcasters here, that is a live Q&A where a buy side optimizer and a sell side optimizer take questions. Not many questions this week, but sometimes we get into questions like, between him and I, we know where the bodies are buried and how things really work. So recommend that show. It's Fridays at noon ET on YouTube. But everything you said was accurate. I'm an older founder. I was had a good 30-year media career, 10 pub side as a writer, journalist, and 20 agency side. Toward the end of that, I became an ad tech consultant as sort of a bridge to founding. And I founded early in the pandemic, so just about 6 years ago this March, which was also coincided with my 50th birthday. So it felt like, between the pandemic and my 50th and everything I'd seen and the lack of freelance work available when the pandemic started, it certainly felt like a golden opportunity.
Midlife crisis?
What?
I said a midlife crisis.
It was not a midlife crisis. I mean, I hope I live to 100, but it wasn't any kind of crisis. It was like, I really want to work. I have ideas. I had the business plan in the drawer. And there was nothing else to do.
Well, Adam, we're thrilled to have you on here. Like when we started this podcast not too long ago, there's a short list of people we drew up, and you were on that list, and glad we could finally make this happen.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons why we wanted to have you on here, besides just, I think I love a lot of the things you say, some of which are, I think are completely make so much sense, some of which are maybe a little controversial sometimes, which I love as well. I think you've got a cool story even beyond the tech, like what happens when someone who actually worked in the trenches. Like you had a big programmatic job at Horizon, who used to be a client of mine, as well as other places. And you spent a bunch of years running and executing campaigns for some major brands. So I think it's cool to see that you went from that to doing your own thing. I think that's part of the story here. And then when I'm looking at what you've done with Chalice, this whole effort to rethink the architecture about taking what was static bidding logic and opaque platforms with not a lot of transparency, and how you're exploring this world where leveraging AI and leveraging agentic to see how they could completely change the bidding process, change the decisioning logic with this portable containerized approach that I really think is cool. So we're going to dig into that, and the idea how these initiatives you're doing, like the agentic RTB framework, your ARTF, that's being explored with you along with IAB Tech Lab. I think this really brings out some interesting questions. Like if AI agents are increasingly making media decisions, what does this mean for advertising and how media is bought and sold? I mean, I think it has some really big implications, which are pretty cool. So with that, let's kick it off some questions. I think
Yeah.
Brett, you had the first one.
Yeah. So, so having these leadership roles at companies like Horizon Media, would that experience teach you about how how programmatic actually works versus, what the industry likes to say about it? So the
Mhm.
positioning versus the reality. What'd
Yeah.
you
I
learn?
mean, because I'm old enough that I saw pre-internet media business, and just because I'm kind of curious and I like to take a step back and have a level of awareness of what I'm in from a outside from an imaginary outside position. I kind of saw the incursion of technology into advertising as like an invasion, and it wasn't just technology; it was VC too that came into advertising and really changed it. So I think having the knowledge of what it was like before uh, allowed me to follow that as a narrative of how, this is how the tech people think about it. This is how the money people think about it. But I'm native to this advertising and media domain. And I could trace the fault lines of where they're not communicating or where it's not working. And I think by doing that, it put me in a good position to match right new technology with old problems. That's what I was always trying to do. And I adopted search really early. That's how I got into advertising, and I realized, oh, just by adopting this thing that was lying around, Google AdWords had been out a couple of years before big advertisers used it. You can make a big change, right? Just by learning the tech. And it was the same with Facebook ads and, even more so with programmatic. It's like I got really into this pattern of adopting the technology and how the technology changes the advertising, and advertising will shape the technology if you have a voice in how it's made. So I saw a lot of people split off and form service companies around just the fact that they could use the technology. I stayed within the agency world and was just getting, more and more executive around this ability to use the adopted technology to client benefit. But then I chose AI as my wave. Like as I said, I was turning 50, and the AI wave was already gathering. It was clear it was going to be something. I might have underestimated how big it would
The
be.
the tsunami
It
of
was a
this,
big
right?
wave on the longer ride than maybe I thought. But I think that's what equipped me to say, like, all right, so this round of new technology hitting the old advertising business is like the fourth time I've seen it, and there are certain patterns around adoption and resistance that I don't have to get upset or knee jerky about anymore because I've seen it.
Was there a particular founder moment, a time you're working like, uh, let's say with clients, the agency side, you thought, okay, this is broken. Like, there's got to be a better way to do this. Like, I have an idea. Or was it just the AI thing? And you were early to that, which I think so. Your timing was good.
Yeah, I was aware of customization and backend data use from my early days at Avenue A, which had the Atlas ad server in house
Yep.
and a really good
Yep.
analytics team. And they would go into the event level data. That's what we called it, event level data. Now we call them logs. And they would see that that simple attribution was like a rule of thumb for which impressions were effective. But if you went into the event level data and you could start to see which impressions actually had influence, right? They would use causal influence methods, and I was very curious about this, and I think over the years I've gained some expertise in what was going on, but I was following that narrative, like, well, this is better, but it's slow and it's hard to sustain and it's expensive for the agency. So just see, my experience of AI is like, wow, this is now really cheap and fast.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost like you get technical, you learn the systems, and then you find the gaps, and then there you find the opportunity,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
As sort of a founder and an entrepreneur in a sense, right?
yeah. I think the big thing that tech and money people are always miss is the whole enterprise market, because it is a minority of the money, and it is complicated in a way that annoys them if you're trying to think of scale. But that's where I always preferred to work. Like, the problems are more interesting. You meet very interesting problem solvers on the brand side, and I found like I could get as interested in the problems that CarMax was having with incrementality as when a kid I would get interested in a band or a rap group. Like, it was just, to me, it's just like a media problem and solution.
Yeah. So starting an ad tech company today is a lot different than obviously 2010 or 2015. We're in a much more mature market. There's a lot of skepticism, and it's crowded. What convinced you that Chalice was unique, that had an opportunity to really make a meaningful change?
Well, I did get a lot of encouragement from people who succeeded in the first wave, right? In Chalice's cap table is Trade Desk's TD7, and we pitched Jeff Green directly, Brian O'Kelly, and Jonah Goodhart, Matt and Art from Accordant, Joe Zawatsky and Eric from Imperium are in our cap table. So all these people seeing the business plan and being like, yeah, this this can work was a huge wave of encouragement. Though it came like a year later. But I think before that was like, the first people I showed the business plan to, and the first data scientists and engineers who were coming on, who were very encouraging and saying, yeah, that like what's happening now in cloud and AI services is making this cheaper and lighter and faster than it would have been even 2 years ago, or even faster than last year. And that dawning realization that the cloud companies were investing billions, even hundreds of billions in infrastructure in anticipation of companies becoming AI factories was like, great. We're like early in, like, Databricks and Snowflake, they love us because we've been building an AI factory for 6 years on their infra, running up bills and, creating use cases. So that's that's a huge win on your back that I don't think the first wave had.
Yeah, it's like I said, you were early, which is really cool, to the AI story, and there's a lot of different AI companies now, and it's interesting what you said, Brett, too, about like the cost and time it takes to have a startup. I think I read a stat the other day that the cost for building a company's gone from, I think it's 3.5 million down to 500,000-600,000, right, with some of the new AI tools. But regardless of cost, it still is a big psychological change, right? I imagine going from a leap, going from operator to founder, like what, like any takeaways or things to call out for other people? Because a lot of people right now are considering that. I've noticed so many people, like Brett, included, who are
taking the
plunge because
I mean, I thought my first realization was like, it's not a certain kind of person. It's just something you do. Once you do it, you're a founder, and then you figure it out. It's not like anyone. I mean, you meet people who are entrepreneurial in high school and are they're going to be founders, but that's unusual. And there's no founder type. I met a lot of people who are founding at the same time as me, who I'm still in touch with, and it's a very diverse group. And you don't have to have the courage all the time. You have to have the courage at the moment of founding. then just hang on.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's the old fuck plan B sort of mentality, right? There is no plan
B. It's like having a kid too.
Really...
It's like you're not going back. So it's like you just have to
burning the boats.
There's no
right?
way but forward, right? So, well, I think one of the most interesting things, and I got to say this: being married, I've got two boys, soon to leave the house. One's already left the house. But you built this alongside your partner, Ali Manning.
Yeah.
And I tried to imagine myself in your shoes, and I thought, wow, I don't think that could work on.
I probably couldn't work with my wife.
If you're hearing, but how did you pull that off? How does that dynamic work, and how do you feed off of each other and stay out of each other's way?
I'm not going to say it works. It happened. Me and Ali met at work. We met at Avenue A Razorfish. Well, working in back-end data for a large banking client. So we had, experience of working in the same industry, and we coached each other for many years. She was at Google while I was agency side. So we were sort of dealing with each other's companies, and we were both advancing in our careers and helping each other. So, I knew that we were a team. Chalice was founded in those first 6 months by me and Ken Rona, who's a data scientist and kind of hacker engineer, a real wizard in the early stage stuff. But by that summer of 2020, we wanted to pitch for funding and make a business plan. Ali's thing is operations, so she's made business plans for billions of dollars worth of budget. So I said, "Will you help us with a business plan?" And I think she just got interested. It was, the pandemic year, like no one had full-time work and could be that engaged in what had been an office job and then a home job. So I think the more she did it, the more she enjoyed it, though she had been trying to get out of advertising. And yeah, it's really rocky. Like all the reasons people say that it'd be hard for them, or that, it's a dangerous thing, are true. Like, you want, when your partner is your coach from work, like they're entirely on your side. Whereas when you have a work argument, they can't really coach you through it because the position might be adversarial at work, and negative feedback from your partner hurts much worse than negative feedback from a partner. But I will say,
you're much more likely to take it a little personally, right?
It's got to be personal,
to say the least. Yeah. Oh, it's only professional. It's only professional.
But I think it works for the company. Like, the founders should be essentially in a love relationship. Like, they should be complementary and better together than either of them are apart, which is close to the definition of love or a marriage, right? It's like,
without the codependency,
they should be.
Well, I think the best startups have that, right? You had like Jobs at Wozniak, you had like, you know, Gates and Allen, where you have people who like bring complementary skills. So why not, right?
And help shape each other's best ideas and protect the company from each other's worst ideas, and all that's good. But it can be a real struggle for us to come together. The decks we've made together, some of them have been struggles and involved like couples therapy sessions just to finish the deck. But those are our best decks, and that's our best work. But we do have a pretty solid department split, so we're not running into each other. She is operations, sales, marketing, finance, HR. I am product, strategy, and partnerships.
Well, from the exterior, seems like you're making it work. And I follow both of you on, online, and I see she'll post a picture of, we brought the kids to the office because school was closed or some emergency. Seems to work. Is pretty cool. So like, I mean, startup life is supposed to be like all consuming. Like, how do you balance that? I mean, I can imagine it's a lot, right?
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, a lot of people with kids work hard, and we were never like young founders who were like working ridiculous, 18 hours a week and through the weekends. We never worked like that. We never worked those kind of hours at agency.
That's good. So you've kept a little bit of a balance, right?
Yeah, we've kept some balance, but the reality with little kids is, if you have good help, like, it's a few hours. There's an hour or two in the morning and you get them to school, and there's an hour or two in the evening and then you put them to bed. So it's not like, it was manageable. We're making, we had some money and really, really good help and a good neighborhood and some relatives and all that. So I don't want to exaggerate like how crazy it was, but it was many, many years of not really resting, like going from work, work to the kids, to the work to the kids, and even a vacation being tough, like for many, many years. So those are tough years, and it was a tough thing to do being over 50, but it's a lot easier now.
Yeah, it'll keep you, sharp going into your later twilight years, right? The more active challenge your brain, right? And I think what I've learned is you gain a little bit of wisdom with age, and I'm much more capable of doing this now than I was in my 20s. Like when Rio and I started something together, I didn't know shit. I just didn't know enough from both organizational management to multifunctional management. I just didn't have enough sort of wisdom and knowledge.
Well, plus remember, Brett, we ran a small like tech company with it was early ad network. We did a lot of media buying, for some clients. I remember we worked a ton, right? But I think a lot of that was just like hanging out, after hours, playing ping pong and stuff like that too. So like, I think that now, like, I agree with you, Brett, probably better at managing my time and better at focusing 100% on stuff, right? So
compartmentalize
and team. The big reason he's easier now is we have a really good leadership team, and some of these people have been with us for years. Our CTO, Joe Wilson, and head of AI and data science, Tylen Petrie, joined us in 2021 or 2022, and they, have led and grown their own departments. Those are, of course, the two of the hardest. So it's, Rob Mooney, is head of product, has also been with us for many years, and
that's great.
Those are
well, that's a testament to your leadership skills, to the fact that people that stick around, that just shows that loyalty is there for a reason.
Yeah, we're on a mission. We're definitely on a mission.
Yeah, it's become a family in a way, right? It's so now let's take, now that we've gotten personal,
pivot to the tech.
Yeah. Let's talk about technology. So you've been deeply involved in the Agentic RTB framework, ARTF, for the acronym if people aren't familiar with it, with the IAB Tech Lab. And for listeners that may not be, in this day to day, what problem? I mean, I have my own summary of what I think ARTF is actually trying to solve, but I'd love to hear from you what you guys are trying to solve when it comes to autonomous media
and how it's
buying
different than
systems.
some of these other approaches we're seeing too.
Yeah,
I'm gonna start with what people know. People know that AI is really powerful, and they know that behind this magical machine is an enormous amount of data processing. Right? Everyone knows that. Right? They could see
yep,
they read about the costs. And in ad tech, there was really no way to bring what we know of as AI, like that sort of magic, into the event level, where the exciting part is the actual bidding, uh, because of the pipes, right? It's like you're trying to bring a it's like if you're trying to bring a 2025 hot tub into a 1930 house, right? It's like the infrastructure can't carry that. But just everyone knows it's a lot of data processing, and there are actual data processing limits of the platforms. So that should be simple enough for everyone to understand, right? But now getting a level more complicated is we started, on the idea that we should use every field in the bid request. And one of the ways that pipeline has been narrowed for platforms is they mostly look at the IDs, and not all the IDs. They look at their own IDs, and they especially look at IDs that they could track conversions of, and especially
yep,
IDs that they've tracked conversions of lately. So that shrinks things down to a much more manageable level for their machine learning. So our first idea is, all right, we're going to work with bigger models. So first of all, we're going to look at all IDs, and second, we're going to look at other fields. And as LLMs get bigger and bigger, we started to get more interested in the language fields, which are mostly thrown away in the old ML pipeline. So there's domains, which were turned into categories so they could be numbers, but they actually started using the words in the domain, and then the words in the subdomain, then the words in the full URL. And then we started working with DeepSea, who scrapes the web. And we said, all right, let's, every time there's a full URL, use all the language on that page and the metadata about the quality of the page. Now we're going to have a much more predictive model and actually fix a big problem in programmatic, which is when you only look at IDs, you don't care at all about the quality of the page. And if you're trying to get the lowest possible CPM, the incentive becomes to find that ID on the cheapest possible page, right? That's why we have
yeah,
clickbait. That's the reason.
yeah. Without any of that context, which is so critical. Yeah,
Yeah. So everyone knows clickbait's a problem. Most people don't know it's because DSPs only care about IDs and don't look at the page. So we're like,
Right.
all right, we're gonna have a model of all the pages on the open web, and we're gonna score them not in general for quality and context, but for how well they match what the advertiser's trying to do or how effective they are for a campaign outcome. And then we're going to try to deploy this. And we had a lot of trouble deploying it because it's big, and the DSPs aren't built for it. We had been inserting our models in a DSP, and we started talking to SSPs. And right around this time in 2024, 2 years ago, Andrew Casale said to me, "We can host one of your models in our server." Right? He's the CEO of Index Exchange, which is he's one of those entrepreneurial guys who started a company in high school. He's been running that exchange for most of his life, and had recently re-architected it and explained to me about this technology called Kubernetes or edge computing, which is the technology of high frequency trading, where you replace a server to server connection where a message comes out of one place and lands in another and they send a message back, to doing it in a single server where one of the message systems is in a container, like a virtual desktop, a computer within the computer. And then the message doesn't leave the server. It's a lot more energy efficient. It's a lot faster. It's a lot cheaper. That's basically it. That's basically the idea of what became containerized RTB and ARTF. It took a long time to build. We didn't test it till the end of 2024. And then in 2025, we started running it. One of the first campaigns we ran was for Zillow. It did so well, the case study ended up winning the Best in Show at the Ad Exchanger Awards. We took what Index and Chalice had.
How did it do well? What were some of the metrics that you were looking at that sort of said, this is it, we nailed it?
It was Zillow drives leads, but then they also want to look at the quality of the leads, like how. So it turned that ID looking thing into like how many leads are actually going to be useful for Zillow, the people who are actually home shopping or actually buy a house. So we looked in the quality and context of the pages to get much better signal over whether this Zillow lead was a legitimate house shopper, and it did like 40% better on cost per lead basis than a DSP on its own.
So Adam,
Yep.
so it sounds like, just to summarize then for, I guess, sort of viewers, so it's a technology that's using, like, because you're not only looking at like the standard contextual signals, but you're really like, you're using AI to really understand really deeply based on domain, subdomain, and the actual content in the page, like
Yeah.
really what's going on and what this inventory looks like. And then instead of just like, in a normal DSP looking at the audience and trusting the ID, just to say, okay, this is what it is, you're able to better target the advertising, but then
Yeah.
it's actually running on the SSP, the supply side, but this is something you're selling then to the brand who's actually buying media, right?
Yeah. Yes. The ARTF was just a means of deploying a bigger model. And what the model does is predict the cost and value of an ad opportunity or of all the ad opportunities, right? So just bigger model. That was step one. Then we took it to IAB. I was able to convince Anthony, the head of IAB Tech Lab, to make it a standard. The standard committee was very well attended. All the top publishers and Netflix and Amazon wanted to sit in the committee, and their interest is super cool. They're looking for ways to control where their data goes, right? Because these infrastructure requires them to either withhold show level data from everyone or send it to everyone. This containers starts to give them the capability to send it only to people they trust to properly value it, which is the opposite of what happened with newspapers, right? Nobody properly valued newspapers and they lost all their money. So,
That continues, yeah.
and still continues, right? So they're being smarter about it. They're interested in the containerization. But now it is a standard, it's been adopted by OpenX very successfully. Programmatic is building it now. There'll be probably a couple more SSPs this year. So it's a very successful standard. And the roadmap is very exciting because what started as just a means to deploy a bigger model now becomes a whole other framework for companies to work together. Amazon has launched something really similar called RTB Fabric, the idea of a single server environment where the bid request can ping around to different partners who can change the bid request, augment the bid request, add data, and then a custom model can answer that data. So the implications are very profound. We're going from a world where there was one set of bid requests and everybody got it, to every advertiser might see different bid requests depending on their partnerships, and they could respond with custom models with much greater ease than ever before.
So they have a lot more control over the decisioning logic before the bids actually
and the data
won.
The data and the decisioning logic. So
right, which allows them to kind of almost insert for the simple-minded, but insert some of the strategic planning, some of the context that they only they have as the brand, into that play, so that they know, which is going to drive effective outcomes, right?
That's
because
right.
It's going to be more.
I'm glad you said that, Brett, because a lot of people say, is it really agentic? Does it fit the definition? But what you said is what makes it agentic. What makes it agentic is that it will serve the advertiser's intent, right? A lot of people, when they talk about agentic, forget to ask, whose agent is it? And what does it do for them?
The agent should be the agent's like representing the interest of either the buyer or seller. I think that brings up an important question, Adam. So like what you've created, I mean, it's like, bid management might be one of the applications of it, but in theory, like you're giving all this incredible contextual information. Brett, to your point, the brand can then insert some of what they want to accomplish into this. Like when looking at buy side and sell side agents, I mean, could this apply to different types of deals, Adam, over time, and different ways of negotiating between buy and sell side?
Oh, absolutely. And not just buy and sell side, but all the partners in between. And then rearrange them, right? So like an agency roster of partners, you could think of them as now being more or less drop or drag into this container environment. The tools haven't been built where they physically drop and drag a tile and then it happens in some container, but it might only be a year or two away. And each of these, it's a very different way of working than a platform, right? Because everyone is modular, doing their piece in an environment they don't control, and they have to serve the end user intent, which might change. So that's what being an agent is about. To me, you're a modular service that changes depending on the end user intent. We're seeing a lot of things called agentic that is just workflow automation, and maybe that is a kind of agent. But for me, it's much more exciting to ask, when all the ad tech partners are agentic, it will mean that the end user can arrange them to do exactly what they want.
And I mean, do you see a world where, like, because there are all these kind of fragmented decisioning layers, like within RTB. I mean, it's like the strategy's happening on the brand side, then you get the supply path and supply path optimization, and then the bidding request and brand safety, which is a different vendor,
Yeah,
and then budget pacing, which is obviously within the
it's
DSP
so
or SSP.
inefficient.
Yeah, and then attribution, which is another vendor altogether. Do you think containerization can actually help bring this
Well, yeah,
stuff
well,
into
Chalice
one
alone,
sort of?
that's Chalice alone's mission, is to put all the decisioning logic in one calculation. And we're getting there. We're getting to where we can do it. People don't realize that most DSPs will do a value calculation, like, do we want to win this one or not?
Yeah,
And bid, and then do a bid shading calculation separately. That's extremely inefficient because the calculation doesn't catch the relationships between predicted value and predicted cost, and those are correlated, right? For some of this,
yeah.
this has been statistically proven that you shouldn't do those separate. You should do those together, but it's a lot more
Yeah,
computational.
yeah. Otherwise, you might be buying some really shitty CTV inventory that's appearing on mobile devices and not on televisions,
Well,
right?
it
Because
makes the error very high stakes. Like if,
yeah,
right, like if everything is based on, like, what we do is we do value to cost prediction of everything and then stack rank them by the ratio. So the first things we're going to buy are where the value to cost are furthest apart. Then if you're off a little, it's still profitable. When these
yeah.
two things are separate, being off a little can cause you to miss an auction you're really supposed to win.
Yeah.
Who is this approach resonated the most with so far? I mean, it sounds, for a brand perspective, it sounds pretty appealing. I mean, I also think for people on supply, right? I mean, it's because it's like it's demonstrating like well, let's say the people with high quality inventory, right? This must be great for them. Like, what are you hearing from the marketplace as you talk to different people?
A lot of excitement from agencies as a way that they can add value again, because it really plays to their strengths of having a full marketplace view, and be able to offer different partners and different configurations and handle that. I think the agencies that are looking for a way to charge transparency for a service advertisers can't do themselves.
Yeah.
Transparency is a service. TAS, I love it. Right? We have a buddy that's contributing to Signal and Noise, Mike, who coined Claw as a service. Right, so everything seems to be as a service, but transparency is a service. That's an interesting play because that is a big. We talk about it all the time. We had Dr. Fu on the podcast. We've had a bunch of people about ad fraud and how it continues to be this persistent problem in the industry. And it's just a complete black box oftentimes to the advertisers.
Yeah. So, I mean, LiveRamp Sidecar was the first commercial container, and it adds a LiveRamp ID to a bid request in 1 millisecond. And Dr. Fu can have a container that adds his estimation of the percent fraud in 1 millisecond. And Christoph from Analytics can add his in the same millisecond, right? Because those don't depend on each other. So you could see it's endless. You could have hundreds of them going simultaneously, and some of them have to be sequentially. Like, Chalice isn't going to bid until we get all these. But that's what I mean. Like, then we could calculate all at once Fu's estimation, Christoph's estimation, the estimated cost, what Gareth said about this placement history, like, all in one calculation. That's the most computational efficient, the most energy efficient, and it very much aligns with what we're seeing with AI. The reason these tools are so magical is they're doing tons of computation in the back end altogether, right? The language.
Yeah, at scale and quicker. Yeah, it's amazing.
Do you find that you're in clients of it? Is this a tough sell? Do you find yourself doing a lot of explaining so that they can sort of wrap their head around, or are there people in the industry on the DSP side or otherwise that are sort of pushing against this sort of new approach, which is different than what we've seen before?
Yeah, there's a lot of this is what I was talking about, adoption. Like, there's cultural barriers to adoption of new technology every time, just because it's new and it disturbs workflows. It's magnified with AI because it's scary, although people were scared of search, social, and programmatic too, maybe not as scared. But I'd say we got the early adopters, and Chalice was fortunate to get the attention of early adopters and get money flowing and quickly become profitable. And now, like, we know that the middle and late adoption is a heavy service lift, a heavy evangelism lift, a heavy marketing lift. We hope it's not so expensive that we don't need to throw giant parties at Cannes, but we will if we have to.
I saw you a Cannes last year. I think you're.
We bring a big team, but we haven't rented a big space yet. But it's like I say, I come from agency, and this is something we have to. People need service. Like, we have an excellent customer service team. and we expect we're going to run one 10K campaign and hopefully show them something you've never seen before. It's going to let us
winning hearts and minds, right?
Get a little.
No, you had a post that I read quickly yesterday. I think, I don't know how recent it was, but you said, and I thought this is a little more theoretical, but I thought this was a really good point. I think it ties into the point you're making about people adopting this in kind of moving through this sort of resistance layers of what they know or the workflows they currently work in. And you said, I just want to point out the idea that we all have, that we'll have AI agents that can do things for us that is not consistent with the idea that they'll do exactly what we do without them today, right? It's natural. The first thing people did with movie cameras was film plays before they knew what a movie was. So do you see us, I mean, to me, do you see that we're in this moment right now where people are almost containerizing, to use the word, their own view of what AI can do? And it's really just, it's sort of in a box. It's what we do currently today. It's just
human nature. It's
compounding this.
I don't get too upset about it. McLuhan said, we drive into the future looking in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
And that's true. We don't, most people can't visualize things. Like, I've been deep in this 6 years, so I could visualize it. I could explain it as well as I can. But the best I could do is show you, like, let me run a campaign of any size, and hopefully I could show you something you've never seen before. I used to get more worked up about it, but it's like if someone's never had home cooking, they've only eaten McDonald's, Wendy's, and Burger King. Like, you could tell them about it, but, until they taste it, they're not going to believe you.
Yeah. Well, but it's interesting. I mean, at the point you made, Brett, about when AI is first coming out, we're just going to try to use it to automate things we already do that maybe we shouldn't even be doing, right? Or maybe they will look very different once AI is actually applied. I think Jeff Green said at Marketech, I heard a couple of people commenting on the crowd who's saying how AI, programmatic, fewer things lend themselves better to, I'm just paraphrasing it, to AI than programmatic. And but I guess, I don't know, programmatic is a way of automating things with primarily through real-time bidding. So when we actually go agentic trading, do things look the same? I don't know if you have a point of view on that, but I think they might look different.
I think there has to be an infrastructure upgrade. Yeah. Scaled SaaS is a plumbing system. The scaled SaaS of ad tech is an outdated plumbing system that needs an upgrade, and it's not crazy. I think Trade Desk has done big parts of this upgrade, and Index kind of took a year off from promoting new products while they were internally doing these upgrades, re-architecting, and it'll happen. And the cultural stuff is moving pretty quick, but there's something about the mentality of scaled SaaS that's going to be tougher for the platforms. Like the idea that we're a hub of data and data comes in and we make the AI and sell the product back to you. That doesn't look as great an idea to me as it did 10 years ago. It's because it's not the only way. And it's probably not the best for a big advertiser because there's multiple hubs. If there was one, maybe, but I have to send all my data to Meta and to Google and to Amazon and to
multiple point solutions, multiple data warehouses, as opposed to managing it all through one system, whatever you are, a Databricks house or Snowflake's house, and then plug in the application layers, the AI layers.
Sometimes I lead a pitch with saying, "Hey, we estimated your data like a trillion events and 2 terabytes a day, and we think it's massively effective for training AI. So whose AI are you training now?"
Train to frontier model, probably, right?
Let that sink in. I was like, you don't know? I'll tell you.
But when looking at scaled SaaS and the impact here, I mean, there have been people saying recently there's a lot of conversation on X, and we'll get into the social thing in a minute. I know this is something we wanted to talk about, but which I still call Twitter most of the time. But most of that tech is on there, and people were the other day saying, "Oh, well, will there even be DSPs in 5 or 10 years?" So I think there's going to be disruption, but looking at MarTech, and I think MarTech's probably going to be disrupted more. The MarTech stocks have really tanked a bit. I don't see it's an enterprise SaaS going away anytime soon, but I think their ability to sell licenses and the whole the model they go to market with and bill for may probably be disrupted to a certain extent. I think ad tech's less vulnerable, if you ask me, because these are big models, they're fast. To your point, it's a lot of moving parts, but I do see the way people work on these platforms changing quite a bit.
Yeah, people aren't great at second order effects. If the way things play out along the same track, it's going to be so much more competitive. There's going to be so many more companies, and the ease of bringing a product to market and making it big, the cost of that is going to go down so much that our whole economy will look very different. So the question to me is will that be allowed to happen, or are a few big companies going to be able to shut it down? Really
I hope it's allowed to happen. I mean, it would be a shame if it's not, right? I mean, because the point we made earlier about it's so much cheaper to create technology.
Yeah,
like we've
product
had guests
lifestyle compression. Yeah,
we've had guests in this pod who are saying how one dude can do all of the work with clients, gather requirements, prototype, design, vibe code. It's like 6 or 7 roles, like people, and they can do things in a couple of weeks that would have taken months before. So it is kind of amazing how quickly things are going.
And the marketing, Facebook has changed the economy in that anyone who builds any sort of gadget can market it on Meta and find their first, 5,000, 10,000, 100,000 customers for like a few bucks each. Now, that's insane, but it's only Meta and only gadgets and direct to consumer energy drinks and stuff. But it could be the whole economy and a lot more than Meta able to do that. And we'll see a lot more companies in every category. Should.
Yeah. So should we pivot to Adam the shitposter?
Yes, do it. Yeah, we had a couple questions in there, Adam. So love to hear your thoughts on it. I mean, I love some of the wars you get into on with some of there's a lot of trolling going on. And I'm not saying by you, but in general on social media, ad tech is a funny ad tech. On Twitter /X is a bunch of people. Curious to get your thoughts on it. I know that you have some rules. You told me the other day when we were hanging out at Ramp Up about like who you engage with, who you just say, I'm blocking you too bad. Maybe we start there.
The rules of engagement for Adam Heimlich on social media.
Look, I think when I got into the media business in the 90s, it was not that professional. It was not an elite profession. And even advertising back then, it was starting to become professionalized and elite. And the culture of the American elite that you never act out and you never melt down, it never really works to me. It doesn't seem right to me. I think it's repressed and it causes problems.
It's just disingenuous.
It's disingenuous and a lot of America hates it who aren't involved.
I hate it too.
And it's just I think it's sort of an aristocracy. It creates one thing, and I think it creates. I think one of the reasons you see like really rich, successful people act out so much is they feel like I've held in bad behavior so long, and now I've made it, and I'm gonna.
Who's gonna restrain me? Like who's you can't. Nobody can fire me.
Yeah, and so. That's where I come from. I was raised in New Jersey and New York City family, and I don't think I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but if I'm like sort of rough with someone that I think their post is bullshit and they say so, I don't think they should think it's the end of the world, even if they think I'm a dick, which is fine. But I don't think they should cry about it, or if they do cry about it, they should get over that. So
it's healthy debate. That's what it is.
Yeah, So that said, I'm not always proud of my social media behavior and arguing. Sometimes I get edgy. Sometimes I'm too angry or edgy, or things come out wrong. But at my best, I'm trying to be funny. I'm trying to lighten the situation and add some humor and levity to these environments where people are promoting themselves or say, doing their best at saying accurate things but missing.
Yeah. They're either shameless shills or they're just inaccurate.
Some people they take themselves way too seriously. Some of these people.
Yeah,
right? I mean, it's
the deflating comments can be really fun. There's other people engaged in the same way, but if I make people laugh, sometimes I meet people at a conference and they say I posted something that made them laugh, and that's good. That's what I feel like.
Well, sometimes people like us that are from the New York, New Jersey area, we can come across as we show our cards and we play it straight, and and there's no obfuscation here. It's just this is what it is. So
New Yorkers call a spade a spade. I love that about they're brutally honest, which is good. I mean, being a New Yorker myself. But one of your rules, if I remember though, was like if you tell me don't sell me and someone continues, they're done, right?
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. I accept most LinkedIn connections, but if they pitch me, I say not interested. Well, another pitch after that, and mostly it's bots now anyway. I just block them, which has
Yeah.
resulted in me having like thousands of people blocked on LinkedIn. But there are also a few people who their commentary has annoyed me so much I've blocked them, and I've heard that's really hurt some feelings. I try not to do that anymore. If you could unfollow them, in ways you could get them out of your feed in ways that they don't see and that hurt your feelings. But there's one.
But
Yeah.
if someone's gonna go in political commentary, like you got to accept that's part of it, right? If you're gonna challenge people and argue with them, they can block you, right? I mean, I don't go ahead. I cut you off, Adam.
Oh yeah, political. Yeah, but it was actually there's an industry guy who every his post is like the startup CEO should, and the startup CEO must, and the communications of the startup CEO. And I was like, I feel like this guy is like yelling at me, like doing everything wrong. I feel like I'm getting constant negative feedback. So I'm just gonna
sort of a
him.
dogmatic approach, right? Yeah, I mean, you don't have to say "in my opinion" before you say everything, but you could also be not so prescriptive, right? About the about
yeah, and there's a generational thing too. Like being our age and like the whippersnappers, like great, more power to them, and you're up and coming in the industry, but sometimes sometimes they're
back to the comment we made earlier about wisdom. Knowledge and wisdom are two different things, right?
Yeah,
fundamentally, and that it takes experience to know. The difference. I think
I don't think that's bad. Like when I walked into newspaper and if I said something I thought I knew that the older people, and I was wrong, the older people would not hesitate to mock and smack you down in the harshest possible.
And put you in your place.
But that's a generational thing. I remember my first couple of jobs being yelled at, being told I was garbage, being like, I mean, some of it was really tough, but it did make me like you got to be good at your job. Like I remember when I first got into consulting, right? Like partners would tell you this is crap. Like go redo this. I can't believe you showed this to me. And you're like, wow, like I thought I was pretty smart. And you realize, well, I didn't know as much as I thought I knew, right? And this person's been doing this forever. So I actually think it was good. And I wouldn't treat anyone like that, but it did make me better at my job. So I do understand looking back why they did that.
Yeah, you shouldn't be harsh and hurt people's feelings, but in writing, I mean, it's another difference, right? Because I was a writer first, I see social media as a writing exercise. And some people are thinking like, this is me. Like, this is actually me and this is me speaking. I don't think that.
Yeah.
I think this is your writing persona and I'm going to respond in my media persona.
And that's back in comparative literature days. I mean, I studied rhetoric, and that's what that
rhetoric,
is. That's rhetoric. Right? Like I'm using a rhetorical approach that this is how I represent myself professionally on X or whatever it might be.
It's my voice,
right? It's not who you are at home with your kids.
Plus it's knowing this is your work too. I mean, it's not you, right? To your point, Adam. So I remember when I first started writing professionally, bringing drafts of things to the editor, just crossed out, correction. The first couple of times, it's like, wow, I thought I was a good writer. This kind of sucks. But you realize, okay, this is making me a better writer. It's not personal. So I don't think that's personally now, right? And I wouldn't. So I don't think people should be. So
I got some Claude feedback the other day that really made me want to punch Claude in the face.
That's awesome.
So should we go to some of our questions? Yeah, quick hits.
Let's do the quick hits. Yeah.
So which part of the ad tech stack do you think is most? I mean, we've been talking about AI, we've been talking about containerization, and your solution is most at risk being replaced by AI. You got DSPs, SSPs, measurement vendors. We talked about incrementality, whatever we want to call that. Media agencies. Where do you see the biggest sort of weaknesses?
Well, I think SSPs are ahead right now, and what Index and OpenX and some others are doing will give them a new breath of life. But ever since header bidding came out, I think their position has been a little bit precarious. Like, what really is the function? They're not doing yield management. They don't have original bid requests. Like, what are they really taking money from? And shifting to saying like we're infrastructure for all kinds of agentic flows of the bid request is a good one, but how many of those are we really going to need? I actually think the DSPs at the moment are more antiquated and maybe more threatened. They have a more or less permanent foothold in being the buy side source of monetary truth, of budget truth, and pacing, which is a really important function that's hard to do at the edge, because you need like the steady state of the total budget. So I think buy side tech is a little more stable than than sell-side tech. I think most measurement and data companies better be ready for a price war. Everything in there is going to be heavily commoditized. They'll all survive and have a function, but it's already the case that people don't really want to pay, don't believe in premium data or premium measurement. That's just good.
Yeah, and a lot of those sort of advanced analytics. I mean, I came from the Neustar side of the fence for a little bit, so the market share solution analytic partners, and a lot of these are kind of heavy implementation low, weights. They're heavy, long managed services cycles, right? And I just don't think
that
people
model's getting blown up. Yeah, that's
yeah, it's
taking
too
it's like
slow, it's
consulting.
too
It's like,
expensive. Yeah, it's consulting with a little bit of tech to kind of, but it's
yeah,
but
AI
it's,
is a big
it is
threat.
take it 6 months or 8 months in order to have people come in and audit all your data and
Mm.
collect it. Yeah, I mean, AI can do that so much
We'll
quicker
see what
now.
happens.
So
They don't look
yeah.
worried yet.
yeah, yeah. But it's like SSPs. I mean, I would have, I don't know. I mean, a year ago, I remember there's a debate about are they all resellers, right?
Yeah.
So and then but I don't know. DSPs with some of the changes are maybe looking a little more vulnerable, but I think that is interesting. But looking at if you had to place a bet, like will RTB still be the dominant buying model in 10 years? I mean, I think it's like 65%, right, of all programmatic is RTB right now. I mean, will that change in the future as we go to agentic? Will there be? I mean, obviously there's different types of deal structures, but do you think that changes dramatically?
Yeah, I think it'll split along enterprise and SMB. I think enterprise wants a really big auction, really needs it, and to be able to fiddle around in there and own their models, and that it doesn't matter so much in SMB, and they could do more behind the scenes. So I think they're it's kind of like finance. Like there will be a market that's for big players, for high rollers, like there is in finance, and there'll be more commercial markets for everyone else.
So, what's the worst take you see repeated on LinkedIn talking about things that perturb you?
Or even it wasn't repeated. What's the worst take you've seen? Period.
Yeah, worst take you've seen, either repeated or period, about AI and advertising.
When they compare platforms and they're like, this one has the data and this one doesn't have the data, that is so stupid, and I'm so tired of it. Like this idea that there's some data ownership that's determinative of success in a platform. This got disproven by Verizon and AT&T, and so many companies that tried to go into ad tech and copy Google. Google has
where they can build a moat around some sort of data advantage that doesn't really exist because the data is relatively ubiquitous and it lives in big cloud infrastructure.
Yeah, you hear it over and over in the trade desk criticism. Well, they should buy someone that has data. Like, what is that going to do? It's going to piss off everybody in the other side of the market.
Yeah, they've got the same data as everybody. They're saying that's the big problem with the Spotifys and the Amazon Musics of the world, because you're not getting anything unique. Everybody's got exactly the same catalog of music, right? That's their data, and it's like you got that repeated over and over again. So each one of these services, it's just a race to the bottom from a price.
Yeah, data's commoditized. Modeling and service are not, and a lot of people have that backwards. You should read the Google trial. They had the most data by a mile, and they had this whole stack, and they still had to break the law.
Modeling and service is not imminently replaceable, and I think that's key. That's AI plus the human kind of orchestration component, right?
Yeah.
And conducting component.
That's what you'll be able to charge for. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely more and more demand for specialized, advisory and services around, I mean, not only AI, but I think tech in general. I think that's the interesting thing. Although AI is disrupting providers of this to a certain extent and their business models, there's more demand than ever.
What gets overlooked a lot is that the adopters will make a lot of money. And the investor Jerry Newman has made this point about shipping containerization. Shipping containerization is like AI in that it added a massive amount of efficiency throughout the industry, and it didn't change who the big players were. Just like in AI, Amazon was big before. Amazon's going to be big in AI. Same with Google, Microsoft. But IKEA, who adopted shipping containerization to become a global shipper, right, changed everything for them. And Walmart, who just said we're going to have the cheapest prices on everything, no matter what, right, becomes much bigger and more profitable. So his point was like, for an investor, it's actually really hard to pick winners because AI and service hard as hell to predict, and how big do they get anyway? Too late to invest in the models, and the adopters is a crapshoot. Like, unless you have inside information, you don't know who's going to be the IKEA or Walmart of AI.
That sounds like the source. Yeah, that's like the source of your idea here, right? Were you thinking of the shower? You're like containerization. Think about what they're doing and how do we actually apply that in the tech space. And it makes sense.
It's very fortuitous. This article is called "AI Will Not Make You Rich." Brian O'Kelly posted it, and I was like, God, this is like the smartest thing I ever read. I read it a bunch of times. Thank you, Brian, for posting it. Then I talked about it on my show, and I was like, I've been fascinated with this article. And then this man, I looked him up, and he was corp dev at Omnicom, and then early investor in the trade desk, and became an investor. So anyway, after the show that I mentioned it, I got an email from Jeff Green with him CC'd. It was like, Adam, meet Jerry.
That's
nice.
Cool.
Great guy, Jeff. So I got to meet Jerry after studying his article, and I got to talk to him for an hour. But incredible thought, and yeah, a funny coincidence that shipping containerization includes that word containerization.
Well, it's crazy to think that like people used to ship stuff and just like, I guess, manually just stack it in ships, right?
They used to take it out of the box and put it in another box. They used to take it off the ship, out of the box, then in another box, and on the truck. And this people come along and said, why don't you just ship it on the truck box or the train box? And it reduced shipping costs at least 70%.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. A friend of mine used to, at his parents, I guess his family business at the port of Munich, port of Hamburg, was like, they would, because the ships would come in, there'd always, if there'd be damage, and stuff was on pallets back then. This is pre-containers, right?
Yeah.
Like stuff would move around and get damaged if there was a storm. So a lot of these pallets would be write-offs, and they would just buy them in bulk and then sell them through these retail. And we never know what they would get. So, but that whole business went away when they switched to the container.
Yeah, I mean, that's the cultural adoption. If your job is to take the things off the boat and put them on the truck, you're not going to love this new technology.
They might disrupt you.
It took a few years, but once, it's inevitable that it's going to be completely adopted, was his point, because it's so much cheaper and the cultural resistance can't hold out over a critical mass. That's what's going to happen.
So Adam, looking over the next few years, like any big predictions, or are there any misconceptions you think people have that'll get cleared up? Like, where do you see things headed?
I think the small business enterprise split is starting to happen, and then a lot of people have missed it. And they talk about advertising like it's unified across those two, and it has been largely because of Google. But that's a really weird thing that the Coca-Cola company uses the same tool as your pizza place. That's not the norm.
Well, for social and for Google, but how about for TV? I think that's interesting. I mean, I actually think that the opposite might happen, right? Like some of the generative AI video tools might actually help small businesses enable them. So
because it reduces production cost of the actual commercials themselves, and then when you have programmatic inserts at the local level, right, it does sort of democratize advertising. On television.
I would say it'll be easier to get into it'd be easier to get a ticket into the big company markets than it was before. But that'll be substantially different than the small company markets, and for the better, because the degree of complexity they need has not been met by Google and Meta.
Got it. So I think that covers everything, right? We're a little bit over an hour. Thank you, Adam. This has great. Been super fun. You're very well read. I can see all the books in the background. And for those that didn't know, there's a green screen, right, that he customized. But it was awesome having you on the show. We'll probably see you at Possible. I'm sure you'll be there. Everybody's going to be there. It's the Cannes of the U.S. now in Miami. April 27th, Rio and I will be there for Signal and Noise.
Yeah, it won't be quite as hot as Cannes. It'll be great.
Yeah, and for all of those that made it this far in the episode, this was a pretty quick episode. Sometimes we go over an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes. Yeah. Be sure to recommend Signal and Noise to all your friends and colleagues. You can find us at Signal and Noise.
Smash that subscribe button. Follow us
on YouTube, Apple.
AdTalk too.
AdTalk as well.
Yeah, and actually, Adam, AdTalk's every Friday, right? It's a live event, right?
Yep, Fridays at noon Eastern.
And if people want to find it, how do they do that? Do they follow you on LinkedIn? Do they
search that at YouTube? Yeah, or LinkedIn. My name's Adam Heimlich.
Okay, cool. And if anyone wants to get a hold of Chalice and contact you to learn more about this containerized approach or anything,
you could write me at Adam at Chalice AI or LinkedIn, but don't pitch me.
Yeah, exactly. I connected with Adam, but I did not send him a pitch. I knew his reputation preceded him. I think my homework, Adam, is that one of the big takeaways here, but just generally your vision, your founder growth here, and your ability to run a business with your wife. I have huge respect for. That's terrific
too. It's very different take.
Is AI will not make you rich. I think that's an article we should all go out and read.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's super interesting. So I'm definitely going to take a read of that over the weekend.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Thank you, Adam.
Have a good one.
Thank you.